Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, genders of all ages, welcome to episode 9 of Alive on 1, the Transformers.cards podcast. I am your host, the God King Lord Zero, and as usual, I have Hawkhammer here with me.
I like turtles.
Me too. I'm actually building a model of one right now.
Really?
That said,
For what?
yeah, Power Rangers.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about the current Encounter 2 tournament, Wave 11's new mechanic, and our next group order of printed cards. As always, though, first we have Card of the Month. This month is Blaster Communications from May 3rd.
Oh, this goober. Now, so this was one of the two centerpiece characters released in the Blaster versus Soundwave deck, which if you look at the actual card, it doesn't call it a Wave 3 card, but let's be honest with ourselves, it is a Wave 3 card. And for a while, this was easily the better of the two boom boxes, just because extra card plays are good. Who'd have thunk it? Yeah, just again, pretty much. I think, when did he really start to take off? Was it in the Wave 3 meta or Wave 4? I can't remember.
Wave 3 era, shortly after it came out, I think a lot of people, they really wanted cassettes to work. And at least in my group, there was a couple people who would play Blaster fairly regularly, but no one was touching Soundwave at the time.
For sure. And yeah, I mean, again, Soundwave, hand disruption, cool, but again, free plays, extra tempo, that kind of stuff. It's just ridiculous. I don't remember at the time what the set composition was, but again, it was only the 6 of them at the time. So if people were, well, I honestly just lost my train of thought. So go ahead and start roasting me in the comments. But yeah, just spiking a grenade launcher, spiking a power punch, spiking a supercharge, reckless charge. The amount of power actions you can get off this goober for free. Sure, it was only twice a game, or 3 times a game, but that's still pretty decent, especially when you can fire it on turn 1, because this is from alt to bot when it triggers, so you don't have to wait an extra turn or, resort to really bizarre shenanigans if you're going second. So, playing a card on turn 1, well, I've said it 3 times before, always a good thing. Admittedly, he has tapered off somewhat now that people have kind of realized that, turns out hand disruption's actually in this game, and Soundwave is kind of over the spotlight. Well, that being said, Blaster still has a decent amount of firepower at his disposal. He pops up every once in a while, nowhere near as frequently as Soundwave, but when he does show up, he manages to wreck some face. Looking at a few decks from a couple months back, I say as I try... Oh, I can't speak. As I try to scroll through here and find some stuff. And there was a two losers event a while back where he actually was part of, if you're not familiar with that format, basically, without going into too much detail, you basically got 2 decks at once, but you had a much more limited sideboard, and you were incentivized to play some, let's say, less than the meta cards. One of the 2 top placing decks was a, actually, yeah, one of them was a Blaster deck. Outside of that, he actually really hasn't shown up that often in a lot of kind of events, but on the casual front, people have been with him constantly, just kind of scrolling through the page on .cards. He's been paired with Wind Charger, Wind Charger a couple of times, Wave 8 Wreck-Gar has been a frequent one. Fire Drive is also a good standby with him. Recently, a lot of people have been messing around with him with Lockbox. Why? I honestly couldn't tell you.
I think it's as
guessing it has
simple.
something to...
I was about to say, I think it's
Sorry,
as
go ahead.
simple as it's Blaster. I think it doesn't matter how good or bad him or Soundwave are. People love cassettes, just like Dinobots. They will play
Right.
them regardless. And
But
when
also
we
looking
make
at...
new cassettes, they're going to play the new cassettes with them.
And from a gameplay standpoint, the more I think about it, the more it actually makes sense. Because yes, you do have that kind of inherent disruption city with Soundwave, but there is very much such a thing as hard focusing on that a wee bit too much and kind of stripping away other capes. So pairing it with a character who can get you some early power stuff out in the first 2 turns, and then kind of transition into it can be pretty decent on the back foot, both in terms of advantage in the late game and in terms of, having characters on the board game. So I think that would kind of be my explanation for it. Plus, of course, you still get the extra character or the extra stars to work if you play Squawks with it. Plus, combiner shenanigans.
Exactly. You
But
glossed
yeah,
over it really quick. I'm going to return back to it. Him not officially being Wave 3 was such a huge headache in the early days of the website. Because
Really?
I had to give him an ID card number. So, like, what
Oh.
ID do you give him when he doesn't have an official set name? He's not, like, we call it 3A, because there's a 2A, there's a 4A. There wasn't really, if, like, for the listener, just go look at his card. It's not Wave 3, it's just Blaster versus Soundwave. Devastator didn't do that.
There's the historical inaccuracy alarm. There was never a 4A. There was a 1A and a 2A.
Oh,
Shame on
my
you.
mistake, you're right. But yeah,
You
Devastator...
realize now you're going to have to edit that in, like, right as you say 4A. And
Oh yeah,
just, like,
you know I'm going to go back and edit
this
this.
is a bit.
I'll go back and edit this, like I always do. Or you know what, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll leave this whole conversation in.
I like turtles.
But yeah, like, Metroplex was 1A, Devastator was 2A, so you would think this would have been 3A. But no. And then same with the anniversary set, it just said 35th anniversary for the set name. So I just kind of said, all right, this is going to be treated as 3A in terms of naming scheme.
And let's be real, it essentially was.
It really was. Yeah. Even though unofficially, Transformers.cards will always consider this 3A.
Yeah, that Blaster, you screwed things up. Congratulations.
Moving on to Season 2 Encounter 2 tournament.
Yay! Tournament shenanigans!
Yeah. Round 5 isn't technically over yet, but we know who are the top 8 going into the bracket is going to be.
From 1 to 8, we have Evil Gem in first place, myself in second, Penguin in third, all with 4 and 1 records, and then the rest of the top 8 are 3 and 2. King Naga's in fourth, the Great Santini in fifth, Ozzy in sixth, Wheeljank in seventh, and then some scrub named Zero in eighth. Who the hell is that?
Who's that guy? Yeah, at the time of recording, the Weaver is 2-2 and could very possibly go 3-2 as well, but he still wouldn't have enough points to get into the top.
Unless, of course, there was some really weird math going on behind the scene, but Z is a nerd and was actually figuring out how the algorithm on Challenge works.
I mean, I can sum it up here for you, like, because I was actually having this conversation with Santini and Wheeljank very recently. So
hey, putting information out there.
Yeah, the score column is your score. That is how much you as a player is worth, and that is based on how many other players you've killed, or beaten, not murdered. And then there's the, I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm going to say bushels. There's the bushels score, which is, that is how well you've done considering the score of your opponents. So if you beat someone worth 2 points, you get 2 points. So looking at the Weaver, he's going up against Darth Storm, who's worth 1.5. The Weaver has 3.5, so even if the Weaver wins, he's only going to have a bushels of 5.
This has been Random Nerd Shit with Zero.
I like math. I mean, I'm a programmer. Of course I do.
Do we want to talk about the top 8 stacks first?
Yeah. Let's just gonna go over the top 8 and see what, if anything stands out.
Yeah, because I mean, like, Evil Gem was on Sky Shadow with Crash Bash, which there has certainly been some discussions as a result of that. Yep. I was on Devi with Darkspark, which, by the way, I will just briefly mention this. It feels more like a side grade to it without it. Like, there have been situations where Matrix has come in clutch, but I've also noticed that the health pool on Devi when he combines tends to be a bit higher, or tends to be a bit lower than if you're not playing Darkspark, just because of the weird tap order you have to go through in order to keep Scrapper alive. So there's definitely, it's not much, but it is noticeable. Like,
interesting.
At least, like, from what I remember, because it admittedly has been a while since I played Devi without Darkspark.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm consistently, like, after combined, heal, like, being at, like, 25, 26, 27 damage, whereas without Darkspark and with me throwing Scrapper in first, I was hit, like, closer to, like, the high teens, low 20s. So, like, there's definitely a trade-off for playing Darkspark. It's just a matter of it's really a matter of preference. Do you want that higher health pool remaining when you combine it, or do you want to be a bit more aggressive pre-combination? Which both options have their validity in this game. Let's be honest with it. Definitely having the higher health pool in the combined phase definitely could be handy versus but against wide teams. Against tall teams though. So Darkspark maybe becomes a sideboard card depending on the meta. Like, it is very much like a lot of things with Devi. You gotta build it either for anti-wide or anti-tall, and the sideboard has there's a few things floating around with that. So
Yeah.
and I will say that was Darkspark with Devi was one of our concerns in the latter half of the Wave 10 beta. And during testing, it didn't prove to be a problem, and it continues to not be, so that's in our cap for our testing.
Good job, us.
Penguin. I want to talk about Penguin, actually. You know what? Let's save Wheeljang for last, because that's... What, do you know what Penguin's on at all? I haven't caught his games yet at all.
Bruticus.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remembered Evil Gem going to be about that. I was just shocked.
Yeah. So, not a wild pick, but it's the first time I think we've seen Combaticons crack a top 8 in anything.
Well, at least in a main event, he I think did pretty well beta events, but
yeah, I think only the beta events where we were explicitly testing him though, where we had like 3 people play him.
Yeah, so that's good to see. Let's see, Naga was on Dinobots if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And I think he went like 3-0, but then round 4 ran into Evil Gem and had a Sky Shadow sized conniption.
Yeah,
that was an entire.
That whole round was we were all kind of like looking forward to it because that was the 2 4-0s going up against each other.
Well, 3-0s at the time, but like.
Yeah, I guess they were at 3-0.
4-0 potential is
yeah.
But yeah, just I remember Naga messaging me afterwards like, "Oh my god, Sky Shadow is so annoying." But after he vented, he was like, "Yeah, no, I know exactly what went wrong there," and that's a conversation that we will need to have a wee bit more on, because there might be a legitimate claim to some here, because that is a good discussion to have more of. Ozzy, I believe, was on. Oh god, what was Ozzy on?
He's the Decepticon Dinobot.
Firecons, that's what it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I've mentioned this before, like, in my streaming days, like, I'm not one to criticize players for decisions, but, like, Firecons?
So...
I mean, he made top 8, so clearly he knows something I don't, so, like...
Yeah.
I am probably gonna get eviscerated in the comments, but...
Firecons were a big surprise to see, but they're not as surprising as just real Jinx.
Well, okay, before we talk about him, we got Santini and you to talk about. Do you know what Santini is?
Santini's on Brainstorm with some Micromasters.
Which patrol?
The planes.
Airstrike?
Yes.
I guess that does make sense. I mean,
Brainstorm with
5-wide focus. 5-wide focus 1.
Yeah.
Not really much to say there. It's Airstrike Patrol. It's good. What are you on? I feel like I know what you're on, but I'm still gonna ask the question anyways.
And a complete not surprise to anyone. I'm playing Scorponok.
Scorponok, who would have thought? Are you still doing like? Are you still on like the pseudo defensive build or what? Or whatever you're usually on?
It's a bit more. It's a bit less defensive than usual, and I'm not liking it. I've changed it already for the next tournament. I'm gonna try something else, something a bit different.
It's funny I've made 2 mentions to Turtles, and then Zero isn't even playing Turtle Mock. Okay, I think we've hit the elephant in the room enough. Wheeljank. It's been a running joke for years now that him and Ozzy and also Naga and Scorp are just clinically insane without being clinically insane, at least when it's to this game, and that showed this time because Wheeljank was on, I believe it was the base and the tank part of Captain Omega Supreme.
Yeah.
Specialist Countdown from Arc Exodus, and then 2 copies of Autobot Countdown. Now, if you're familiar at all with this card, you're probably thinking, WDF, David Blaine, Countdown doesn't have Horde. How could you possibly be playing 2 copies? Orbital Command, I think, is the card. It just lets you bring in a copy of Countdown for free, and this had a issue that I believe both In the Name of Slingshot and Third Party previously had, where you could effectively bring 2 copies of the same character that didn't have Horde. Now, admittedly, Wheeljank has gone 3-2, and when I fought against it, it honestly wasn't as much of a pain as I thought it would be.
No.
Admittedly, I was playing a heavy aggro deck, so take that as you will. That being said, were there discussions at one point to potentially patch that bug? Because that is something that very much I don't think was...
It's come up. We have other problems in that wave to suss out first, so that's the main reason why we haven't. I don't think it's a problematic error. I just think for consistency's sake, we should get rid of it.
Right, that makes sense. Again, like I just said, like, he went 3-2. There clearly is some counterplay enough, but, like, definitely for consistent shot and...
Yeah. Not worth banning
Again,
until then or anything, but...
Sorry, say that again?
I'll say it's not worth banning until then.
Yeah, no, like, it's not gonna be something that's gonna be abused, like...
Yeah. But
so,
it is
but
wild seeing 2 parts of Omega Supreme and 3 countdowns out on the field.
And of course, his sideboard is just going into straight up Captain Omega, which
makes perfect sense.
Is terrifying, but I actually managed to beat it. So actually, I guess that because I know I won game 1 when he was on the 5 wide. I didn't go to game 3 about that, but yeah, I won a straight up game against Captain Omega, which if you remember any of the shenanigans I've been through, like I'm talking like during like Wave 6, or like before Wave 6 was officially named Wave 6, before Arc Exodus happened, like back when it was in its original Arc 1 incarnation, like Captain Omega gave me PTSD. A little bit of vindication there.
Do you have any
one side note there?
Prediction of who's going to take it?
That is a hard question to answer because let's look at the matchup. So it's going to be you versus Evil Gem. I feel like I shouldn't say anything here because
no, I won't be offended. Well, I think he'll take me. I have beaten.
To be fair, though, you can hit. Okay, if you were playing your normal defensive capabilities, I'd actually say it's a bit of a toss-up just because of the amount of firepower you can throw out. But because you admitted to playing less defensive cards, I think Evil Gem takes one.
Yeah, I think it'll come down to if I can get lucky and KO both parts at once.
Right, which admittedly is a fairly hard situation up.
Not as hard for Scorponok though.
Right.
His claws.
Oh, you're right. Myself versus Wheeljank. Obviously I have already beaten him once, but that game 2, if I remember correctly, was somewhat close to it. Game 1, I think I can take. It's gonna come down to game 2. If I can't win game 2, I don't think I take the set, so that one's a toss-up. But if you held a gun to my head and say pick one, I'm gonna say, oh, God, this is gonna sound so egotistical, but I think I barely squeaked.
Okay. And then,
much as I completely get blasted in both games, and I immediately eat those words. When this comes out, if we've played the top 8 match and I've just got canned, or Penguin versus Ozzy, have those two played yet?
I don't think so.
Well, let's take. I have the tool in front of me to take a look. So Ozzy played you and Santini. Yeah, he hasn't. So Penguin's on Bruticus, Ozzy's on Firecons. Bruticus is an inherent blue build, but it is a wee bit squishy. Ooh, that's a toss-up. I feel like
Bruticus. And I'm not saying that as a mark against Ozzy, I'm saying that as I don't have faith in Firecons.
Yeah, I'd say so too. Like, this is very much of a case of a deck not having a proven track record kind of dictating this, I would say. So,
you know what?
We could be completely wrong. We can only work with what we know, though.
I will say, to maybe, counteract what I just said, Heavy Orange, which is Firecons, usually beats Pierce.
And then Dinobots versus Airstrike Patrol with Brainstorm. We picked 1, 2, 3. I feel bad for saying 4, but I feel like Paddles does a decent amount there to curb the firepower.
I think so too. I'd give that to Dinobots.
It's such a boring thing to say 1, 2, 3 is going to take it, but like genuinely looking at the matchups, I think that's just
how it goes.
Based on how we understand the interactions between these decks, I think that's what ends up shaking out.
So then after that we'd have
it'd be Evil Gem versus Naga, and then me versus Penguin. That'd be a combiner fight, me versus Penguin. These are predictions. This is not what is going to happen for sure. Anything could happen if bad draws or weird flips are in play.
Yeah,
but me
absolutely.
versus Penguin, Bruticus is a very defensive combiner. I am a very straight, punchy combiner. Although I play much more orange compared to some Devastator builds, I don't think I have the peer with to get through Bruticus.
Okay.
So as much as I want to say I make it to the finals, I think I actually drop it to Penguin there, and he gets to laugh at me again after the shenanigans that were the OI Winners Finals. And then between Naga versus Evil Gem, that, from what I heard from Naga, was kind of a problem. So I'm gonna say Evil Gem takes that. So we've got an Evil Gem versus Penguin finals in that. Sky Shadow versus. I honestly think in that situation, Evil Gem, I'm sorry I'm about to say this, but I think Penguin takes it because we got a glimpse of what happens when he has to face a Decepticon combiner versus me. He took a game off me, just to be clear, but missing that 3/3 damage hurts dramatically, and him not just being able to absolutely demolish large characters and having to instead play Plinko with 5 separate ones is going to hurt me, and that's with him having. I looking at the way everything is shaking out, Penguin is going to take it. Evil Gem in second. Me in third. Naga in fourth.
All right. Well, there's you. Now watch us be completely wrong on every match.
Yeah, it's gonna be a 7v8 finals or something like that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be some NHL level parity or whatever.
Wave 11 will introduce a new mechanic.
Ooh, what are we bringing up this time?
Yeah. So I kind of sat the team down and basically said along the lines of, hey, it's been a while since we've added anything new. Stations.
The last new mechanic was stations, rolling act, technically Junkions.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Junkions were more of a faction rather than a mechanic.
Right, but that's why I said kind of.
Yeah. And I think it's time for us to do a new mechanic. And I suggested,
please.
We're doing minicons.
Whoa!
Yeah, no, even just among the team, we've had some very positive feedback, even just to the idea of doing them.
I'm looking right at you, Veril.
So, the loose idea of how they're going to be, right off the back, they are not Battle Masters. They're going to function...
Not in the fight.
Yeah. They will be able to attach to a character in upgrade mode. They don't have a dedicated upgrade mode. They attach in alt mode. They give that character power up, and then when they get scrapped, they go back to the battlefield.
Now you're probably thinking, oh my god, infinite looping character, that's gonna be absolute hell on wheels to fight. Well, here's the thing. We want people to be able to splash them in decks because, this kind of stuff is, fun to mess around with. So basically what we've done to prevent any, hell on wheels issue, almost said head on wheels in allusion to Titan Masters, but hell on wheels. They're 4 stars, and they are severely understated, so that way their weapons can have a bit more firepower, and B, not causing an infinite amount of headaches at the end of a game.
Yeah, the idea is, much like in Armada itself, you want to use your minicons, and you also want to protect your minicons. They will be squishy, they will die easily.
And once they're gone, you don't get their upgrade, so
Exactly.
Have fun.
Yeah, they go to the KO area, not as an upgrade.
Which technically also means you could involuntary promotion them back, and although I just realized we got to make how would I still function work with these?
Oh, that is something to go address. Yeah. That hasn't come up yet either.
Yeah, so there are some kinks to work out, but
yeah.
This is like very early concept stuff.
Likewise, we still have the question of Hand of Adaptus is there too. If they're 4 stars, you could have quite a lot on a team. Put like a 8-star character, even a 12-star character, and then you can have like 4 minicons with.
Right, because they do have an alt mode.
They do have an alt mode, exactly. So that could be potentially a problem drawing. We don't know if maybe that'll be fine, because again, they're so squishy, maybe that extra draw is not a big deal. That's definitely something we are aware of, we need to test and figure out. Right now, the big hurdle we're getting over is figuring out the exact wording to do what we want and still have them survive.
Right.
Very shortly ago, the idea was you tap the bot mode, it flips to alt mode and attaches. Then when it's scrapped, it comes off tapped. The problem there is if your opponent scraps your minicon and it comes off tapped, it's dead. Like,
right, because they immediately go, hey, come here.
They can send their weakest character in and likely kill your minicon.
Right, so there's a lot of things we've got to do to sort it out, but we've got the base concept down. We just need a lot of how do I put this? There needs to be
the very fine details
connected into the right spot.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll get there.
But we just wanted to put that out there that, hey, we're doing something big and new, and we're trying, to A, make something fun. That's engaging to fight, B, something that's engaging to play, and C, doesn't immediately cause like 17 headaches.
Yes. Then, somewhat related, we're also going to have characters like Armada Starscream who will get benefits from having a minicon on them.
Right. And also, like, all the minicons, like, there are going to be some that, like, there's going to be a wink and a nudge about who, like, they're supposed to synergize with, but they are all going to... We're going to do our best to make sure that they're all, like, generally applicable.
That's a good point. We'll have Swindle. Swindle can go on anyone. But we want Swindle's ability, or whatever he gives, to work really well with Starscream. Armada Starscream.
Right, so again, wink and a nudge, but... You get to use it with whoever you want, because combos are always fun, and railroading is never a good idea.
All right.
So yeah, that's what we're at with minicons. Again, still in development, but we just wanted to put it out there that, have something big to look forward to Wave 11, even though...
Yeah. When we released Wave 9, and then with Wave 9B, we did a big group order where a bunch of people tell me what cards they want professionally printed. I put an order in, then mail them out to everyone. We're doing another one of those. So, if you go to our Discord server at Transformers.cards/Discord, you'll see a sticky thread in the General Optimus channel. There will be a direct link to that thread in the comments of this episode. In short, though, there's a $5 base cost, then it's $2 for each standard character you want, $1 per small character you want, then 50 cents per battle card or stratagem you want. Like I said, all the cards will be shipped to me. Once I have the cards, I'll package them up, get some labels ready, and then you'll pay the shipping cost to go back to you. And there we go.
There's a Titan in Wave 10, and what happened to Scorponok?
Excellent point. The not so short answer is that the company we use to print our cards, make playing cards, they don't normally do that size of card. They have told me we can custom order one, and I will be looking into that for this order. I just do not know how much it will be. I am mentally preparing myself for $20 per card. It could be cheaper, it could be more, I could be way off. I do not know. The big problem with it is that I was told there's a high minimum order. I don't know what they mean by high. If they're talking like 20, not a problem. If they're talking 200, that will suck.
Yeah, and again, if it's a semi-reasonable number...
Oh, we cut off. Okay, 1 second. Hold up. Okay, say something? I had mentioned about the high minimum order. You are right, at least China. I don't know Hong Kong specifically, but they are in China. Exactly. They may change, but I don't believe they will. So I just can't promise that. So like I said, if you're interested in those, go to our Discord in the General Optimus channel. There'll be a thread there, and basically just saying, hey, here are the cards I want. Most people will be wanting the new Wave 10 cards, but you can choose any cards in the game you want, even Wizards of the Coast original cards, 1 through 5. I know a lot of people like to get the super rares printed because they're insanely expensive. Yes. I will make a small note that when we do print the Wizards of the Coast cards, on the little bottom right, it will say, I think it says proxy, something like that. That's done to make it clear so they can't ever be sold as counterfeits. Even though we believe this game should be as cheap as possible, if not free, we don't believe in counterfeiting. We had someone leave an anonymous comment on the podcast website. They asked, "Are you going to do the giveaway?" We do not have any current plans for a giveaway. However, there's a pretty likely chance we'll have some after the aforementioned print run, especially if we have to buy a lot of Titan cards. Alright, that is it for this episode. Next episode, we'll have the results of this encounter and further updates on Wave 11. Probably also the announcement of the next encounter. I want to start that sooner than later. If you'd like to leave a comment, you can do so in the comments of this video, or you can leave one anonymously at Transformers.cards/AliveOn1. If you're interested in joining our team and helping the game out, we're looking to bring on some new people. You can find further information at Transformers.cards/recruitment. I'd really love to get a graphic artist on the team to help out with some tournament banners and promotional materials. Hawk's audio's out, so he can't say peace out, y'all. So until next time, toodles.